Hello, everybody. Hey guys, it's Brandon. I'm coming back with another video. This video is a special video. It's in response to Eddy's 1-year YouTube anniversary giveaway. And so he had a fantastic idea. I thought myself it was a great idea. And so he wanted us to pick a player or an athlete that overcame something or ended up having a positive outcome, positive story to kind of keep the positiveness going right now with everything else going on. And he said it could have been any sport. It didn't have to be baseball. And so as a Chargers fan, the first person that came to my mind was Mr. Ryan Leaf, as you can see by my little setup here. Sorry if the camera bounces a little bit, guys. I'm having to hold it because of the angle to kind of get everything in. So I do apologize if it does move a little bit. But anyways, so getting back on to the athlete I chose. I chose Mr. Ryan Leaf. Now, if you guys are football fans, you'll probably know his story. If you're not a football fan, you may know some of his story. But this guy definitely went from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows back up to what he's currently doing now. He's really kind of turned his life around, and in a way, especially with anybody that's dealt with substance abuse issues and any kind of law enforcement issues, I would definitely say that he has had a positive turn in his life, and he's trying to make a positive movement with other people. So anyways, I want to try to give you background on his story. So as you may or may not know, he attended Washington State University and was a highly rated quarterback in college. Matter of fact, he was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy and went number 2 overall in the NFL draft in 1998. Of course, number 1 that year was Mr. Peyton Manning. And many people, including myself, actually thought that Ryan Leaf was going to have a better career. He had the stronger arm. He had more talent. He had more mobility. He had that higher ladder, so to speak, with his talent than Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was a polished quarterback, and what you got in college is what you were going to get in the pros. So with that said, the Indianapolis Colts ended up selecting Peyton Manning number 1. They needed a quarterback. And San Diego at the time needed a quarterback with Stan Humphries had battling concussion issues and not being able to continue. So whichever quarterback the Colts didn't draft, the Chargers were going to draft, which happened to end up being Ryan Leaf. So at the beginning, Ryan Leaf did really, really well. He started the preseason off, went 4-0 in the preseason. Yeah, it's the preseason, but it was 4-0. And started the regular season that year off 2-0. Then he had a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, which was probably the worst game a quarterback has ever played in NFL history. I mean, he had, I want to say, 6 turnovers. He had less than 20 yards throwing. It was just a horrendous game. It was in bad weather and just a horrendous game. And that was kind of the beginning of the end of Mr. Leaf with his pro career. But with that said, I do want to say that a lot of people consider him a draft bust. This is just kind of I'm on my soapbox now, laugh out loud, Eddie. A lot of people say he's the worst draft bust of all time. I disagree, and you may agree with it or not, but I do disagree in being the worst draft bust of all time, just for the simple fact that everybody knew that the Colts and the Chargers were going to draft quarterbacks. And everybody knew the top 2 quarterbacks that year were Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. And any other team in the Chargers situation knew that they were going to have to draft the one that the Colts did not draft. So, yes, it didn't work out, but there was no other player the Chargers needed to draft at that moment other than Ryan Leaf or Peyton Manning, whichever one fell to them. So I don't consider it a draft bust because the Chargers did not really have a say in the choice. In my opinion, the worst draft bust of all time would be Jamarcus Russell by the Raiders, because the Raiders drafted him number 1 and could choose anybody. So that's just my little soapbox moment there. So let me get back off. So anyways, after the Chiefs game, Ryan Leaf was never the same. He had a blow up with media in the San Diego Chargers locker room, which some of you may or may not have seen. They have YouTube videos of it all over the place, where the late, great Junior Seau had to step in between. And he was just never able to put it back together again. All the talent that he had, all the upside that he had in the world just was never the same. And so after 3 years with the Chargers, he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and was cut before the regular season. Then the Dallas Cowboys signed him, and he played a little bit. I want to say it was a Thanksgiving game with the Dallas Cowboys, and then was cut by the Cowboys. And then he tried to make the Seattle Seahawks in the following year, 2002, and was cut during preseason due to some wrist injuries. And that was it. He retired. And after leaving the NFL, you didn't really hear much about him until he started getting into coaching. He was coaching he was a quarterback's coach at Texas. I'm trying to think of what Texas college it was. It was a smaller college. It was, I don't know. I'll have to see if it comes to me. It was West Texas A&M. I'm sorry, West Texas A&M, and he was a quarterback's coach, and hung around there for a while until he started developing a substance abuse issue with painkillers. And so it wasn't already bad enough that he flamed out in the NFL, kind of fell off the face of the earth. But when he's trying to reestablish himself, he got addicted to painkillers. And that led him down the road of not only substance abuse issues, but breaking and entering. He ended up breaking and entering into homes to steal medication. He was taking medication from players he was coaching. And so he got into quite a bit of trouble to the point of being sentenced to prison in 2012. He was given a 5-year sentence for one of his breaking and entering charges, and actually went to prison for it and looked really, really bad. He was also battling a tumor in his brainstem, which ended up being non-cancerous, but he did have to have surgery to have that removed. And so from recovering from that, as well as serving his prison sentence, he was kind of at rock bottom. And then in 2014, at the end of 2014, he was released from prison and decided to write a book. He started a recovery house for people addicted to medications and painkillers and things of that sort. He started to try to help with, rehabilitation. It was called Sober Living Houses, and it was located in Los Angeles. They also had a home in Houston and New York. And so he was kind of like the figurehead for the that program, and was really kind of touring around the U.S. doing like a media tour kind of thing, talking about his story, talking about what the sober houses can do for people, and really pushing rehabilitative programs and things that helped him out to kind of get his life started going back on track. After a couple of years after that, I didn't really hear from him, but in 2018, he ended up taking a job with the Pac-12 network, where he did radio shows and was an analyst for college football games on TV. And he actually did a very, very good job. He really did a good job. And he did so well, in fact, that in July 2019, ESPN hired him to cover their college football season and do games on ESPN2 and ESPNU. And he actually did a game here at Fresno State for the Fresno State Bulldogs. And I got to tell you, he is a completely different person. He is very knowledgeable about the game. He gives great insight. I'm not going to say he's at Tony Romo's level, because as far as analysts go, Tony Romo is kind of head and shoulders above everybody. But he's got kind of the same kind of style. Like, he tries to figure out what the play calls are going to be ahead of time, and he's pretty good about guessing what the play is going to be and knowing what the play is going to be. He can break down quarterbacks really, really well. And he has no problem, and I think this is the biggest part, he has no problem in talking about his story and all the ups and downs, especially the downs that he's had with his career. And he's really positive. He's really tries to help anybody out that needs it. He's reached out to people like Johnny Manziel before, and tried to help him with his story, because they were kind of on the same trajectory in some aspects. And so he has no problem trying to help out younger people, help out older people, help out anybody that's willing to do the work, to rehabilitate, to break their habit, to break their addiction, and to try to turn their life around. And you know what? As someone who's kind of, grown up in a law enforcement background, I think it's fantastic. He went from a Heisman Trophy finalist, a number 2 draft pick in the NFL, having a football franchise handed to him, to bottoming out, to being in prison, looking for drugs, taking drugs from his players, breaking into homes, going to prison, to then coming back out, being an author, being an analyst on TV, breaking down football games, and working for ESPN. He doesn't have that big head that he had when he was younger. He's very humble. He's very loyal and honest about his story. And I got to say, it's really refreshing. I wish that the Ryan Leaf now is the Ryan Leaf the Chargers had gotten back in 1998, because I think his story would have been a lot different. I really do think you would have been talking about him and Peyton Manning kind of being eye to eye. But I know it's not baseball. I know a lot of you guys on my channel and Eddy's channel may not be as interested in this story as I am, of course. But I really do think Ryan Leaf's story has a lot of positivity that's come of it in a very, very hard life. And so, guys, if you haven't checked out Eddy's channel, I'll have a link in my description. You got to go check Eddy out. He's a fantastic guy, great guy. Love his channel, puts out great material. And make sure that you do a video response. Let's make this 1-year giveaway really successful for Eddy. Do your video response. There's a ton of stories out there, guys, and I can't wait to see what you guys have. Hope you guys have a blessed evening. Until my next video, see ya.